What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing, yes, an insane number, but 20 cool cars for less than $5,000. The reason why we're doing this, you may ask, is because recently we did one of 20 under $10,000. So we're going to give you 20 more cars, but this time they're all going to be under $5,000. And the reason why I'm doing this is because you guys have recently got me to 20,000 subscribers. So in order to just say thank you, I decided to give you guys this list. It does take a lot of time, but it's well worth it with the amount of support that you guys give me. The fact that I can do this for a living because of you guys, and the least I could do is make you guys a video. So thank you guys so much. I know it took forever to get these out, but they take long, and I try to upload daily now, so I have to do this one in my free time now. So it's kind of tough to get it out there, but we're doing it, okay? 20 sports cars are just fun cars for under $5,000. Thanks to you guys hitting 20,000. Pretty soon we're gonna have to do this with 30 because we're getting close to 30,000 subscribers now. You guys are awesome, man. But anyway, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, so starting off this list strong with a very poor choice for a first car, but a good little project car or track day car. It's a Toyota MR2 AW11 or first generation. Yes, baby, this puppy has some freaking pop-up Monopoly headlights, and the reason why I said it wasn't that great for a project, or I mean for a first car, is because it's just a little hard to handle. We'll get into that in a second, but it comes with a 1.6 liter inline 4 making 112 horsepower, and it was rear wheel drive, and it was mid-engined. And yes, that horsepower is very low, but this car was also incredibly cheap, and you will most likely not get bored of it just if you know how to enjoy low horsepower. It's always fun to drive a slow car fast and a fast car slow. Bada boom, bada bing, sir. It was built to handle, so take it to the twisty boys and have a blast. Just make sure you look up snap oversteer before you do that. It's a big problem in these cars. Make sure you do your research on how to handle it. Next up is quite literally the opposite of the MR2. It's not a very good handling car at all. It's the first generation Toyota Tacoma, baby. One of the most reliable little trucks to ever be built. Don't sleep on little trucks. Everybody's always like, oh, I need a big, massive V8 in my trucks. Don't do that, man. These little trucks are so cool. This little pocket rocket came with a reliable as all hell 3.4 liter V6, making 190 horsepower, and it was 4x4, of course. But you could also get it as rear wheel drive and turn it into a little drift truck if you want to. Most people don't do that. Personally, I recommend lifting it, putting some meaty tires on it, and taking it anywhere that you want to go without having to worry about it getting stuck or breaking down because it's a damn Toyota. I think that would be much more enjoyable in this thing, and you just have a fun, reliable daily driver that's classic. Next up is most likely going to make you guys mad that it's not higher on the list, but it's the wonderful Lexus LS400. This car is great, do not get me wrong. They're incredibly reliable and comfortable as all hell, but they're just not the best in today's current scenario for the majority of people. The reason being is they came with a 4-liter V8 that makes 270 horsepower to the rear wheels, which unfortunately drinks up gas like crazy, and in today's day and age, that's a problem. On top of that, they are kind of boats that only came with an automatic transmission, so they're destined to be daily drivers, but people who live with winter would be better off picking something up that isn't rear-wheel drive. Still, they do look much better than a lot of cars on the road, I'm not gonna lie, and these things, when you slam them, they go together like white on rice, and they are rear-wheel drive, so you definitely can have fun in it, and they're a pretty baller-ass car, but they're just maybe not the best in today's market. But you know what car isn't that bad of a choice if you really just want a romping V8 that can make some massive power? Look into the 4th generation Chevy Camaro SS, or commonly called the Catfish Camaro. Yes, it may be the ugliest generation of Camaro, but hey, you get what you pay for, buddy, all right? And looks aside, it's actually a really good car anyway. It comes with a 5.7 liter V8 making 320 horsepower, and it was rear wheel drive, of course, and that engine is actually an LS engine, so if you want to make even more power, you absolutely can. These things are like notoriously good drag cars. People drag them all the time because they're so dirt cheap and they come with an LS. Those are the best things you need for dragging. But they are actually even worse to daily drive around than the LS400. It gets worse gas mileage, it's more powerful, it's less reliable. So if you do want just a daily driver V8, then pick the LS400. But if you want a fun V8, I recommend picking up the Catfish Camaro. But I hear you loud and clear, buddy. Mark, that car's too ugly. Everybody doesn't like that car. It's ugly. Well, stop complaining, you little weirdo, and look at the Datsun 280ZX. Now, I want to start off by saying this thing will most likely be a project car, but once the project is done, you will have the coolest car in town. Any 280ZX under $5 grand is not going to be a full built purpose perfect, God, I couldn't think of the word, car. Anyway, it comes with a 2.8 liter inline six, making 135 horsepower, and it was rear wheel drive as well. And that engine always just gets swapped anyway, so it really doesn't matter that it has such low horsepower. But just in case you do want to keep that engine, that's what it makes. It's really not that great of an engine for tuning or anything. These cars are really just a piece of like history. They're not a great first car or anything, just a cool car. And if you think that it's so cool then and you need it, then it's under 5K. Or maybe you want something a bit more reliable, which makes sense, or something that you can drive right away. Well, the Volkswagen GTI Mark V may be the perfect choice for you, my good friend. These freaking super hatchbacks are the most practical cars on this list, most likely. It comes with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4, making 200 horsepower, and it was front-wheel drive. And this little hatchback, it's just so gosh darn cheap that it hurts. The whole GTI line in general depreciates harder than a damn Camry, but that's just because so many people buy them since they're that good. Like, they are really a good daily fun little car. Also, don't let people fool you. They are quite reliable, and if you want to tune them to be a supercar killer, you absolutely can. Don't believe all the memes that you see about these Volkswagens. Just be careful, because for some reason the Volkswagen community doesn't really like the 5th generation that much, so you might get a little bit of hate. So if you really care about like public image, it might not be for you. Next up is a car that literally nobody in the world talks about anymore, and it makes me so incredibly angry. It's the Toyota Celica GT 6th generation, the gen that's right before the newest one, by the way, in case you didn't know. It's also the one that they came out with the GT like 414, and it just looks so cool. It's such an underrated car though. It's the one everybody knows for that, like the rally stage, you know what I'm talking about, with the 2 eyes in the front. But they're also pretty expensive. The GT, however, is not expensive. It's still pretty cool. It comes with a 2.2 liter inline 4, making 135 horsepower, and it was front wheel drive. And that is by no means something to write home about, but it is very reliable. It's a very cool looking car, and it does have a lot of aftermarket support to tune this thing up to be super fun. So keeping this stock would be just silly of you. And you can turn it into a rally car. Front wheel drive rally cars are a thing, and they do handle pretty well. So if you really just want to turn your, I guess, base model GT Celica into a rally car, you absolutely can. We are going to take a huge leap of faith back into the hatchback world and talk about the first generation Subaru Forester. If you're new to this channel, then you don't understand my undying love for the first gen Subaru Forester, but let me fill you in. It's a great car, okay? I love the first gen Forester so freaking much, I don't know why. It's just such a cool car. It comes with a 2.5 liter flat 4, making 165 horsepower, and it was all-wheel drive as well. So this car is honestly nothing special in terms of performance, but if you slam it to the ground and keep the engine relatively stock, it makes for an amazing daily driver that looks pretty cool, that literally anybody can drive, since it's just like such a driver-friendly car. Like, it's all-wheel drive, low horsepower, plenty of space, and you can turn it to look cool and drive it that way, or you could do the opposite and lift it to be like an off-road monster and drive it that way. It does both, and pick your poison. All right, goodness gracious, relax. I hear you loud and clear. You want something that's horrible for daily driving and just looks cool and makes cool noises. That's all you care about. Well, look no further than the Mazda RX-7 FC. Most likely the one that you're going to be able to find for under $5,000 is going to be a convertible or automatic, but either way, they're worth it to me. They come with a 1.3 liter 2-rotor rotary engine, making 145 horsepower, and it was rear wheel drive, which is definitely not a lot of oomph to it, but they look awesome. They're rear wheel drive. They make some super cool noises when turbocharged. They have pop-up headlights. They're an old Japanese car. They have one of the most unreliable engines that need the most amount of maintenance ever built. It's a great choice. Why wouldn't you pick the FC RX-7? If you don't pick the FC RX-7 out of all these cars on this list, you're wrong. The next car, however, is much more practical than the FC RX-7, but still pretty unreliable. It is the Audi S4 B5. It's my personal favorite S4 ever built. They came with a 2.7 liter twin turbocharged V6, making 250 horsepower, and it was all-wheel drive, and that is pretty damn good considering this car came out in the freaking 90s. So keep that in mind. Like, 250 horsepower with a twin turbo V6 back then was pretty cool. Also, the all-wheel drive system is one of the best around since it's made by good old Audi, so it's the Quattro all-wheel drive, so you can absolutely drive this thing year-round if you need to. That engine is also very good for building power too, but sadly, once you do start to build power is when they tend to have problems, so just be a little bit careful. They can either be a complete project car, you can make this thing incredibly fast, or you can keep the engine stock and just daily drive it. It can do either, but just don't think that you can mix the both of them. You probably knew it was coming, you just didn't know when, so here it is. It is a damn Mazda Miata NA at the number 10 spot. This freaking car has a grasp on the car community and it hurts my soul. I can't help but admit, though, that it really is just always the answer to everything that you're looking for. I do think there are better choices out there that are under 5K, obviously. That's why it's only in number 10. But it's just such a good, well-rounded car. It comes with a 1.8-liter inline-4, making 135 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive and incredibly lightweight with a perfect 50-50 weight distribution, making this car a handling dream. It's literally a go-kart on wheels. Well, every go-kart's on wheels, but it's a go-kart for the road. If you want to get started into like really driving a car and pushing it to its limits, the Miata is perfect for that. Now for straight line speed or drifting, I think there are quite a bit better choices because this car doesn't really excel at that. But for the whole, cornering and track day stuff, a Miata is a perfect car. Holy moly, the hatchback game is coming out strong today, sir. We are talking about the damn Mini Cooper S R53. These cars are incredibly cheap for what they are. It's just actually mind-blowing. They're like, you can find these for like $3,000, and they are pretty good cars. So if you want a Mini Cooper S, buy one now because they are cheap. They come with a 1.6-liter supercharged inline-4, making 214 horsepower, and it was sadly front-wheel drive, but who cares? Because that's some pretty decent power for a very small car like the Mini Cooper. Plus, they actually make for some decent tuner cars too. They handle power pretty well, not as great as like a Honda, but they do handle power well. And if you don't just like power and you would rather have some handling aspects to it too, well, they handle like a dream as well. They're literally the only downside to owning a Mini Cooper S is that you now own a Mini Cooper S. Alright, but number 8 is the BMW 325i E30, which is a car that's getting a lot of hype lately for just being a cool looking European car, and I just could not agree more. It is just such a good looking classic vintage car. It makes you feel like you're in the mafia if you're driving one of these things, but unfortunately due to that, the prices are going up for a car that's really only worth like $2,000. It comes with a 2.5-liter inline-6 making 170 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, but you probably should just stick with the rear-wheel drive one because they're going to be a lot more fun, and they're just such good cars. Like, you can drift it, man. Why wouldn't you want to drift it? Like, yeah, the performance ain't great on it, and the car is kind of unreliable at this point since it is so old, but you drive such a blast from the past. I just love it, man. Like, you're like driving a piece of history. Also, they do make for some pretty decent drift cars as well, so if you want to get into drifting and you need a cheap platform to do it, E30. Next up is the first Honda of the list, the Honda Civic EG. A pretty overrated car, to be honest, but still very cool. People are going to kill me for saying that. I'm sorry. I love the EG, but it really isn't God's gift to the world, Honda boys, okay? It's not the best car out there. It's just pretty good. It comes with a 1.6-liter inline-4, making exactly 100 horsepower, and it was front-wheel drive, and obviously that is incredibly slow out of the gate, but the magic with these Hondas is they never stay stock, okay? You always are going to slap a turbo kit on it. You're always going to swap it with like a $200 K-Series motor because for some reason they're dirt cheap, and you're always going to swap it to all-wheel drive and make it incredibly fast. You got yourself an absolute raging machine that can literally gap anything on the streets if you do that stuff, and it's so much cheaper than like any other tuner car out there. That's why Honda's so popular. You can make such good power for such dirt cheap, and the EG is a great platform to do it. The next car is completely different from what I usually talk about, but I think it deserves a spot. Let me know if I'm wrong. It is the Jeep Wrangler TJ Hunt. Yes, Mark Roden is telling you to buy a Jeep Wrangler for under $10,000, and that's a good idea. Hear me out, though, buddy. I am right, okay? I'm never wrong. I've been wrong a lot, but hear me out, okay? It comes with a 4-liter inline-6, making 181 horsepower, and it was 4x4, obviously. And yes, that horsepower isn't huge, but you're buying a Jeep Wrangler for off-roading, not to go fast, okay? If you're buying a Jeep Wrangler to go fast, you need to do some more research. It's the ultimate, like, summer vehicle. You get a couple of your boys, you drop the roof, grab some beers, and go listen to, like, Morgan Wallen driving to the beach. Also, Morgan Wallen sent the N-word. Don't think I forgot about that, Morgan, okay? You're racist. Also, the incredible engine is incredibly reliable, too. It's one of the most reliable engines of all time. The 4-liter inline-6 from the Jeep Wrangler, and it's also in the Jeep Cherokee of the same time, is one of the most reliable engines ever to exist. So if you want a reliable engine, go with that. Alright, sir, we are into the top 5, and it was kind of hard to put these in order from worst to best, to be honest. So, to be honest with you, it kind of just depends on what kind of person you are and what you're looking for. But number 5, in my opinion, is the BMW 328i E36. It truly is just one of the best ways to get into drifting out there, and it still is doing it. And for that, it deserves a spot alone. It comes with a 2.8-liter inline-6, making 190 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. But obviously, if you're going to turn this into a drift car, which most people that are buying E36s are, then you might want to buy the rear-wheel drive one, and if you do that, it is just absolutely perfect. BMW always makes some absolutely amazing cars for just about anything that you want to do to them, and the E36 was no exception at all. It rides good, it's fast enough, but most importantly, it is fun as all hell. It can get sideways, you can break it loose, and you can do all that stuff while looking really good in it too for like only $3 grand. Next up is the Lexus IS300. I put this car here because it's kind of the same as the E36 in my opinion, except it's from Japan. Okay, they're pretty much the same car though. It comes with a 3-liter inline 6, making 225 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive, which is pretty damn similar to the E36 that we talked about before. Yes, this one does have a little bit more power to it and a little bit of a better engine to it, but that makes sense because it's also a bit more expensive. It has that JDM tax on it, so if you really want the best deal, I would choose the E36. But the IS300 comes with a naturally aspirated 2JZ, which can handle upwards of like 600 horsepower on stock block, which is pretty damn insane still. So like, don't sleep on that. Like, everybody's always like, oh, I need 1,000 horsepower. 600 horsepower is more than enough for drifting. 300 horsepower is enough for drifting, but 600 is great. So it's kind of a toss of coin, but personally, I'd choose the IS300. It just seems to have a little bit more power. It is a little bit more expensive, but it seems to all round it out. Coming in at third position, bronze medal baby, it is the Ford Mustang GT New Edge. Mustang guys can rejoice. It is here. It has come. The Mustang is on the list. The car comes with a 4.6 liter V8, making 260 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive, and that's pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie, right out of the gate, it already has pretty decent power. But it can also be a drift car if you want it to, but it more shines in the whole like street car category. It's an American V8 that will make you broke because of the gas, but it will also make you smile with how easily the engine will take power. They also have that Mustang name behind them, so if you buy it, you get to be a part of some weird like cult that, I'm gonna say it, it hits the crowds. It's funny, all right? I still think it's funny. I don't care. But in all seriousness, it is a good engine to build. It is rear-wheel drive, so you can have tons of fun in it. It's just a good street car. It's pretty reliable. It does all that you want it to do. The next car, however, is kind of the complete opposite of the Mustang. It is the Acura Integra GSR, which is just, it's just one step down from that wonderful Type R Integra. Everybody knows the Type R Integra nowadays, going for 6 figures online because it's such a wanted car. But what if I told you that the GSR is pretty much the same thing, except for it doesn't have as many suspension pieces? Well, I would kind of be lying to you because they also came with different engines, but that doesn't matter because it's still a very good car. This one comes with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making only 170 horsepower, and it was sadly front wheel drive as well. But this is one of the best cars to build in the world, man. It really is just so good. The amount of potential these Integra GSRs have is insane. It is incredibly cheap to build this motor, and it takes the power insanely good too. If you literally just want to gap every kid in your school and you want to do it with a high schooler's budget, this is easily your best bet out there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, in my opinion. They also look like one of the best looking Hondas to ever be made, in my personal opinion, so if you care about the looks, well, it looks good too. But first place, you guys probably knew it was coming because I am a Nissan boy at heart. It is the Infiniti G35 Coupe. Yes, I put a VQ as number 1. Fight me about it, man. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna come beat me up? No, you ain't gonna come beat me up. They are worth the money, okay? They are. I don't care what anybody says. This isn't biased. It really is just a good car. It comes with a 3.5 liter V6, making 287 horsepower, and it was rear-wheel drive. And in case you don't know, they are pretty much a 350Z with 4 seats, which is pretty damn baller. The one you'll find, however, is going to be a DE, meaning that the engine can't make as much power without dumping tons of money into it, which does suck, but it already comes with decent power from the factory. It looks great, in my opinion at least, and it's incredibly comfortable, very reliable. Don't let people mislead you and say that the VQs are unreliable. They're not. They're very reliable engines. It's just such an amazing choice, and you could even drift it if you ever get bored too. I forgot about that. You can drift these cars. They're rear-wheel drive, so literally everything about it is good. It's decent for a daily driver. I'd be careful if you live somewhere where winter is a factor because it is rear-wheel drive and does have a lot of horsepower. But yeah, it's just like the best of all worlds in my opinion for under $5,000. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment another video that you'd like to see down below, and subscribe to the channel for more. We're going to be doing all kinds of top 10s pretty soon, guys. I'm trying to get like it figured out, like what I want to keep doing on this channel, because I have so many ideas, and I literally don't have enough time to post all the ideas that I have. So it's kind of tough, but we are going to keep being consistent, hopefully uploading once a day for 6 days a week. We're going to hopefully keep doing that. I hope you guys are enjoying that. Thank you guys so much for 20K subscribers. This video is for you guys as a thank you from me to you. I really appreciate it. If we hit 30K subscribers, we'll do it again with 30 cars. So but yeah, let me know any other ideas that you want to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. Das Vidania. Have a nice